Hi, today I'm going to show you how to trick your opponents in the opening. By tricking your opponents in the opening doesn't necessarily mean to try to make them blunder or some inaccuracies in the opening. By tricking your opponents in the opening, I mean how to lure your opponents into the unfamiliar position for them, like lure them in a dark forest where a lot of possibilities to make mistakes. Today I'm going to show you two of my games where I played recently uh, Blitz Bullet. So I started the game with knight c3 move. The reason why I played knight c3, I'm not showing my opponent my intentions, so which opening I'm trying to play. And usually after knight c3, most of my players respond with d5 or e5. There's knight f6 and sometimes c5. For example, if I play e4, more likely my opponents are usually my opponents plays c5. So this is why after knight c3, I'm trying to first of all avoid the Sicilian defense and trying to lure them into like different positions, different openings. Because after knight, let's say knight c3 move, so they don't play c5 because they think, okay, my opponent didn't play e4, then I'm not supposed to play c5. And they accept this knight c3 move is more likely queen's gambit, something like d4. And that's why they respond with d5 or knight f6. Also, after e5, here you can always play e4 and go to the Vienna opening, or you can also play even more tricky knight f3 move, knight c6 and then d4. So this is something unfamiliar position, I believe, and it looks like more like 4 knight defense, but without a pawn on e4, which is very good for white. For example, knight bishop e4, pinning. If you remember in the 4 knight defense, bishop usually pins on c3 with the intention to capture on e4, where the bishop is still on c1. Here I have my bishop already on g5. I didn't waste my time for e4 move, and so that's why we have different positions. For example, I take, pawn takes, and then I play queen d4, attacking bishop, putting pressure on f6 knight. So I think white is better in this position. So let's go back. If my opponent plays d5, then I can just play d4 and then go to London system with knight c3 move, which is good for me because I know how to play here. So this is why I'm ready for this d5 move also. Knight c3. So today I'm going to show you two of my games where my opponents played e6. So they're still thinking to play maybe Indian defense, knight f6, but I'm really trying to play this, something different. d4, and after they play knight f6, then I play e4. So e4, and here more logically for black to play d5 because because it's a French defense. And here, after I play bishop g5, I'm pinning the knight. So instead of playing e5, actually here, usually computer recommends to play e5, but I'm really trying to play bishop g5 because here I have an idea to attack the king. So my idea is to capture the knight and then play knight f3 and castle, prepare the castle to queen side. So I'm going to show you in two of my games. Bishop g5, bishop played e7. So now black is blocking the pin and trying to capture when the pawn on e4, and here I capture the knight immediately. So again, in this position, white still, computer still recommends to play e5, something like knight e7, capture, capture, and then play f4. But I prefer to play another position, so I just capture, and I play knight f3. So after black takes on e4, I like know that my opponent is not the guy who plays usually French defense because it's not a good move. I think it's an accuracy because that helps me to bring my knight to e4 and have more pieces, an active knight on e4, and so he can play c5, for example. White is better here. In this position, white's supposed to play c5, striking the white center immediately. 2 pawns on d4 and e4. But they capture, and I capture here with knight. Bishop goes to e7, bishop d3, castled, queen e2. So after I play queen e2, the point of this move is to prepare the castle to queen side and attack on the king side. So I play this position a lot, and I really like playing this position for white. b6, very typical move. In French defense, black tries to develop the bishop to b7 in this long diagonal. So castled, queenside, bishop b7, and h4. And here it is, a pawn storm. This move prepares one of the knights go to g5, so that's a good standing for a knight that attacks on h7, f7, and e6. So a5, black is also rushing to attack on the queen side with a pawn storm. So moves like h6, trying to stop the knight g5 move, I think it even helps white to easier way attack the king. For example, is g4, knight d7, and then play g5 right away. So trying to open up the h file or g file, depending on what black is going to play. If they play knight just h5, trying not to open anything, then white just will play knight e5. So now white has a strong attack against the king because queen is attacked on h5. So if knight takes, I take, then I will have open file. So I think this is just a crushing position for white. So a5, knight g5, bishop a6, trying to exchange the bishops, which makes sense, but black also losing a pawn on h7. So it was, I think, better to play h6, try to attack the knight, but I wasn't even trying to retreat with my knight from g5 because once they will capture, that will help me to open up my h file, my rook, and I was kind of going to play f4 to strengthen my knight's position here, and just waiting until they take, and I'll just capture with this pawn, like this, and I have very strong attack, queen h5, and along this h file, checkmate. So bishop a6, I captured on h7. So here, if my opponent captures, I have somewhere discovered attack, like double check with knight, and followed like with queen h5 is checkmate actually. So like check, and king goes h8 or h6, doesn't matter. I just play queen h5, and this is a very nice checkmate. So queen h7, sorry, knight h7, and bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and then c5. So not the best move, but the position is already really bad for black. There wasn't any good moves that can save the game. So I played here knight h g5. So I retreat back, and wasn't, let's say, not the best move. It was better just to take the rook and, enjoy with extra material. But I played knight g5 with an idea to checkmate on h7. So this is very typical in this type of positions. And I was trying to kind of finish the game more logical way, was a mate on h7. And my opponent didn't see this move. Instead of playing f5, trying to block this queen from h7, but I would still play knight takes e6, attacking queen and rook. So this is winning anyways for white. My opponent just captured on d4, offering queen trade. So you can pause your video and find mate in two moves in this position for white. So, okay, the correct move is to play knight f6 check. So sacrificing knight, trying to open up my queen, and go to h7. So this is a clear sacrifice. No matter what takes on f6, bishop, pawn, or queen, I will do queen h7, checkmate. So this is how I won the game. This was my bullet game, and I just spent 15 seconds for the game, and because I really was familiar with this type of position in French defense. Let's see next example, next game. So again, I played knight c3. My opponent played d5. This time he played d5, I played d4, knight f6, and I played here bishop g5. So I still have opportunity to convert the game into the French defense, which happened in game e6, and I played e4 right away. Knight takes, bishop e7. So here I have options to capture on f6 with knight and bishop. I capture with bishop. The reason why white shouldn't take with knight is because that leads to a lot of pieces exchanging, so bishops, knights, so that's going to be equal position, so that white cannot attack. That's why White usually captures on f6 with knight, so capturing one of the best defender of the king side, knight f6. So bishop takes. Here is the way for black to capture also with this pawn, which is a line in French defense. But as you see, my opponent wasn't that familiar in the capture with bishop, knight f3, and played c5. So that was a blunder, just giving up the pawn. So I just captured a free pawn on c5. Here, white is already having won a pawn. Black doesn't have any compensation for that. And the reason why I want to still continue to show you this game, even though it's already winning for white, because I want to show how can white attack on the king side. Knight c6, c3. So very useful move in this French defense or in this type of positions, because I'm defending on d4, also defending against the knight b4, for example, queen a5 check. So very useful move. b6, knight d4, bishop b7, bishop b3, cancelled, queen e2. So again, same thing. I develop queen to e2, trying to castle the queen side. Notice I'm not going to d2 or c2, e2, because usually queen, in many cases, queen goes to e4 after knight captures or knight goes somewhere. And also, maybe later on, I need to move this knight away so that I can bring my queen to h5. That's why queen e2, I think it's the best move. Queen e2, h6, castled, a5, and again, pawn storm was h4. So once my opponent played h6, it's easier for me to attack with g4 and then g5, again trying to open up the g file or h file. So a4, g4. In this position, I could do a prophylactic move, which was a better move, a3, so that black completely forgets about attacking my king side. There's no way now for him to attack. My king is fine, and I can still continue my attack with g4 and g5. I did g4, b5, so it's too slowly. g5, already striking the bishop and the pawn. By the way, I could capture the bishop, but the reason why I didn't take, I just didn't want him to capture his queen, and that would help him to defend his king side. So g5, captured, bishop e7. So bishop e7, I have open file, I have extra pawn, I have really active pieces, and I played very tricky knight e5 move here. So the reason of this move is not because I want to exchange knights, but there's a very tricky idea behind of this move that black didn't guess in the game and captured the knight almost immediately. He captured on e5, and so pause your video in this position, find a forced checkmate for white in 4 moves. Okay, so I'll show you the checkmate that I did in this game. Rook h8, check. So luring the king to h file so that I can bring my queen to h5 with check, attacking, and after king goes here to g8, that's the only move. Now I need to clear the path for my bishop on h7 so that the bishop can help my queen to checkmate on h7. Knight f6 check. So no matter what he takes, what captures my knight, the pawn, or bishop, I will do checkmate on h7 with the queen. This is how I won my another game. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye.